to introduce themselves for Hansard purposes.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Waiguru, Governor Kirinyaga County. I'll request my team to introduce themselves.
Just name and designation.
Good morning. My name is Jacqueline Jogus, is in charge of finance and economic planning.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Carila Sotieno. I'm the Chief Officer, Economic Planning, Budget and Procurement.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Edward Dinyaga. I'm the Chief Officer, Finance. Thank you.
Chair, my name is Henry Kamadi, the County Secretary.
Chair, my name is Jared Washira, Chief of Staff.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Lawrence Moshira, County Director of Budget.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Stephen Gikonyo, Advisor in the Office of the Governor.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Tom Nyambisa, Head of Human Resource Management.
Morning, Chair. My name is Kevin Motinda, Head of Supply Chain.
Good morning, Chair. I'm Rafael Mboaura, CPA, Acting Director, Accounting Services.
Has everyone gone on record? Sergeant at Arms?
Good morning, Chair. My name is Angela, Advisor in the Office of the Governor.
Good morning. I am Mark Irongo, Senior Communication Officer, Kirinyaga County.
Okay, we welcome the delegation from Kirinyaga. We'll move swiftly to the next order, which is administration of oath.
I, Anne Mombi Waiguru, do solemnly swear that the evidence... Sorry, I'll start again. I, Anne Mombi Waiguru, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before the committee in respect of the matters before the committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Very well. I know you were required to submit your responses in advance, but you'll need to table them just for formality.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I hereby table the following documents before the committee. Management responses and accompanying annexures on the report of the Auditor General on County Executive of Kirinyaga for the year 2023-2024. Management responses and accompanying annexures on the report of the Auditor General on the receiver of revenue for the County Executive of Kirinyaga for the financial year 2023-2024. Management responses and accompanying annexures on the report of the Auditor General on the County Revenue Fund for the County Executive of Kirinyaga for the financial year 2023-2024.
Auditor General, I hope that you've been able to look at the responses and take a view.
Yes, we received the responses and we were able to verify the responses.
Okay. Honorable members, unless there is any preliminary matter, we will go straight to our agenda, which is consideration of the reports of the Auditor General on the County Revenue Fund, the Receiver of Revenue, and the County Executive Financial Statements for Kirinyaga County for the year ended 30th June 2024. There being no supplementary matter, we want to move very fast. As you are aware, the Senate is required to consider the reports of the Auditor General within 3 months of them being laid on the table of the Senate. And thereafter, once the House takes a resolution or adopts the report of the committee, then this committee is still engaged in follow-up of implementation of recommendations of the House. And so I think we've been in this process for quite a long time. Governor, you've appeared before my committee for some time now, even during the time when you're the chair of the Council of Governors. We are all in agreement that the audit process needs to be done quickly, swiftly, and issues raised by the Auditor General, if there is criminality or if there is a violation of the law, that needs to be established quickly and action should be taken. The Senate has agonized on how to give effect to Article 2293, which requires us to conclude this process within 3 months. And I think this, just for general information, I know being a former chair of the COG, you might still have networks within the council and you could share this information. That we think that doing this process within the 3 months is an advantage to county governments, because at some point we are going to hold the National Assembly to account. Revenue is shared on the basis of the most recent audited accounts as adopted by the National Assembly. Now, if the budget policy statement that we considered last week is still relating to 2021 revenue, is that fair for county governments? So there's a silver lining in as much as it's a process that requires us to do a lot of work within a short period of time. And so the Senate has undertaken to fulfill its part of the bargain. We hope the National Assembly will follow suit so that when we are dividing revenue, we are basing it on the financial statements for 2023, 2024. I think that would lead to a significant increase in the allocation that goes to county governments. So it's a reason why we have lined up quite a number of counties to appear before this committee so that we can conclude our consideration before 31st of March. And then thereafter, we'll be engaging in implementation follow-up where you'll be coming to tell us how far you've gone in closing the gaps that had been identified by the Auditor General. I want you to, well, you're no longer the chair, but you're chair emeritus, to encourage your colleagues that this exercise is for their good. If you're looking at it from that perspective of unlocking more funds for county governments, then that is a decision that we need to abide by. I know there are certain matters in court that touch on issues of prior years where Parliament has not taken a determination. But as we await the decision of the court, we are also considering taking the Ugandan approach. In Uganda, if Parliament fails to consider the reports of the Auditor General within 6 months, then they are given 6 months, as we are given 3 months. The report of the Auditor General is automatically adopted. And I think that then should be our scenario. If the National Assembly fails to adopt the revenues within 3 months, then it should be automatically adopted. And then the Senate should insist that that becomes the base for sharing of revenue. So I think it's a big conversation. It's something that goes beyond the appearance before this committee. I think that was just for emphasis, just to lay the ground. Today we'll be confined to the report for 2023, 2024, but when we are doing the implementation follow-up, we'll still demand that you give an account on measures taken to close the issues that have been raised in prior years. The Public Audit Act requires that once Parliament takes a resolution, the Clerk of Parliament shall convey that resolution to the various accounting officers and heads of entities. And heads of entities will have 60 days to respond to Parliament on action taken to implement the resolutions of Parliament. And I think, Governor, having been a CS, you're quite familiar with those processes. So today we'll interrogate the report of the Auditor General, but 60 days from now, we'll also be having a conversation on how far you have gone in implementing those findings. Finally, we usually invite the County Assembly Public Accounts Committee to be part of this conversation because you have a concurrent mandate. Even then, they have up to 31st of March. I'm not sure whether they have invited you to go through this report, the County Assembly of Kirinyaga, so far.
No, they haven't.
So they just have between now and 31st of March to discharge their constitutional mandate. This afternoon, I'll be addressing a meeting of county assemblies. They have invited me to talk about oversight overreach by the Senate. They are saying we are overreaching our boundaries, but they are not doing their part. I think in our last meeting, we had a conversation on whether they should be engaged in ward projects or not. So we are going to have a very candid conversation, and I will challenge them that if they do not invite the county executive to appear before them, then someone else has to do it. And it is not overreach. It is just fulfilling our constitutional mandate. We will then go straight to the reports. We have 3 reports. We have gone through the County Revenue Fund. The Auditor General has taken us through. I think there was one issue that we can, it was not a significant issue. It was a comparison issue. Auditor General, if we start with the CRF, let's start with the easy ones to dispense with. Starting with CRF, comparison of budget and actual amount. Is that still an outstanding issue? Because it's a bookkeeping thing.
Yes, it's still an outstanding issue.
Or is there theft there?
No theft, just an outstanding issue.
So it's still outstanding?
Yes.
How is it supposed to be corrected?
The major issue is that the budgeted receipts described as return to CRF under an amount of Kenya shillings 657, but when you reviewed the amount which was available at the CRF central bank account, which was around 42 million, so there was a variance of 614 million. The issue is, how was this budget, what was the source of funding for the difference of 614 million?
Oh, OAG, can you tell us in English, what is the problem? Have these guys stolen 600 million?
No, it's just a budget figure which we could not confirm how it was supposed to be funded.
So what is the problem? Remember, we are talking to, you are talking to farmers who are now senators, and we're also talking to the farmers of Kirinyaga, the rice farmers. When they see 614 million, they think that this is the money that the administration has stolen. So what's the problem here? Just describe it so that we contextualize it.
Okay. Normally what we do, we review budgets, and whenever we review budget, we also look at the source of funding for the budget. So included in the budget, there is an item for amount described as return to CLF. That is money which has not been spent in the previous years, but need to be budgeted for this particular year. It was amounting to 657. That was what was put in the budget. But when you look at now, the amount available at the CRF central bank account was around 42 million. So we were asking now the difference, which is 614 million. How was it to be funded? This is one item in the budget, but we have the other equitable share, which we know how it was supposed to be funded, and we also have the own source revenue, which also the source of funding is clear.
Is it a mistake in current year? Is it a mistake in prior year?
It's the current year.
It's current year. When it comes to figures, we don't just say it was a mistake. So is it an issue of professional negligence, or is it an issue of cover-up?
I don't think it's any of that. It's just a matter
But you've cited a problem. What do you think is the root cause of the problem?
Having unrealistic budgets, whose source of funding is not clear.
Senator Spooner.
You know, Chair, you are told the Auditor General that he's speaking to farmers. I don't think he understood that. We are not professionals in budget making, but we are very quick to pounce on problems. What is the problem here? If a budget item says we expect 615 million shillings, is it your position that it should say where that money is going to come from? Is that what you're saying? Yes. And this is something that somebody preparing those budgets should know if they are a professional. So the Chair is saying, is the problem the professionals who prepare it? Is it negligence or incompetence?
Maybe the accounting officer can.
Auditor General,
told us is a
the
problem.
Constitution
It can
and
only
the
be
Public
those
Audit
two.
Act requires you to make recommendations. You are the one who did the audit.
And Chair, it can only be those two. It can either be an oversight, it is incompetence or professional negligence.
Chair, the auditor is the prosecutor in this matter. So what is your take? What are we supposed to consume?
Yeah, because you need to tell us ni makosa gani imefanyika na nani ameifanya, so that we have said kazi yetu ni kuinject.
Yes.
Chair, let's make it easy for him. Why do we have these figures here? Why did you put them there? Because the Chair is saying, any rice farmer in Kirinyaga seeing this, the conclusion will be the 614 million has been stolen. Why do you have that figure there? What do you want us to do with it?
The figure is there because if you look at the revenue estimates, there's a figure for revenue estimates, and that is what you expect to where the source of funding, where you're going to get the money. But this particular item, it is not clear where the source of funding is supposed to come from. So that now we have a total budget which includes an estimate of 657 described as return to CRF. Because at the time, at the beginning of the year, the amount which was available at CRF account was around 42 billion. So we are seeing the difference of 614. We cannot be able to validate the source of funding for the 614 million.
Now, Governor, I think you need to respond because the Auditor General is making it sound like you have declared some 40 million when you should have declared 600, and therefore that is starting to sound like a scam. What was your response on this matter?
It's a very simple issue, Chair. From the budgeting, it's the style of budgeting that the country has been using, where we have this thing called rolled over. So we never used to do a zero balance budget. So if in a financial year you have budgeted for certain things and they were not funded because either you did not get enough revenue, because when you're budgeting, you project that we will receive this much from the national government and we will raise this much from taxes. And usually it's as a response of pressure on the ground. You know, you budget internally what you want to do, but there's also the conversation with the county assembly and all that. So usually there would be an increase of the things that you've budgeted without an assurance that you will raise that revenue to cover those things. For example, you will put word-based, let's say at 300 or 400 million, then you put bursary at 100, then you say that your revenue collection will be maybe 400. When you disagree with the assembly, for example, what will happen is that you just go and increase to balance. You increase what your projection for revenue collection is, even if you know that you will hardly reach it, so that you can accommodate the demands that they want in the budget. Now, at the end of the financial year, because you did not raise that money, what the procedure of budgeting, which we've been doing until I don't know whether the law has passed, but until last month or 2 months ago, was you roll over, you call it a rollover. So anything that was not funded, it's put quote unquote rollover, but it actually, there is no resource for it. But because it was budgeted, you cannot pull it out of the budget. So over the years, you keep rolling over things, and with time, that grows. And so you end up with eventually a problem of pending bills because you committed, but there was no resources for it. I think, just to put it simply. But now, because of the new budgeting method, I think is a zero balance method, you're not supposed to be rolling over. If something wasn't funded, you start again from zero. And you either rebudget for it, but you don't carry it as a budget item, yet you had no resources in the exchequer to fund it. I don't know whether I have been clear about it.
You could be explaining a different matter, but Auditor General, was that explanation proffered during your audit?
Chair, if I may, before the auditor goes, Madam Governor, there is a written response that you have submitted to that query, and it talks about actual closing balances in the CRF. It looks like you're explaining something totally different from what your written response is saying.
Okay, I was trying to explain, we were told to be simple, to explain it in a way that...
in fact, the language here is simpler than the things you have said. The language in the written response, to me, is simpler.
I was explaining the word rolled over. I rolled over, the word rolled over means that you have put them in the budget, but it's not, they were not funded. There was no money to fund those things. So you carried them over to the next year as something that should have been funded, but is not funded. But I can read the management response.
No, I think we have it on record. Auditor General, what is your recommendation?
We are lost. You know the explanation that the governor is putting before us is quite different from what the Auditor General is saying, and we still insist that we are supposed to get guidance from the Auditor General. I think that's where we are going to get a solution.
Yeah, OAG, what is your recommendation on this? To me, it looked like a bookkeeping issue, but through the explanations, it's now sounding like we have different interpretations. But what do you recommend? And tell us whether there's lawfulness and effectiveness in reporting or in utilization of those funds.
Before the director responsible for the region comes in, I want to say that this is an issue that cuts across several counties. Return to CRF issues, they are talking about where a county is struggling to include figures in their budget, and the budget is not realistic. The source of funding is not, the source of the revenue, the source of funding for whatever they want to spend on that, shown in the budget, is not clear. So return to CRF issues, we are talking about figures coming from the previous year. The activities were not funded, but then now they want to include the same figures which were not funded in the previous year in the current year's budget. And in the process, these amounts keep on accumulating because they may have started projects but which were not funded in the previous year. So the recommendation will be the accounting officer then should prepare a realistic budget, identify a source of funding, and put those figures in the budget before the budget is approved. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you are still not telling us about efficiency, effectiveness, and lawfulness on this particular matter. Because if it's a bookkeeping issue, if it's a matter of philosophy, that can be dealt with by the accountants. Of course, you'll be going into accrual accounting. Is this problem going to be there?
Chair, in fact, it's very interesting because, as you know, I'm also an accounting officer somewhere. And year on year, because we have a legal entitlement to financing as political parties, our budgets always reflect the money that we expect. And we have run into problems with the OAG because they tell us to prepare realistic budgets. At least for me, I have the backing of the law because the law says you'll give me 0.3% of the last audited revenues or income for the country. Where is the basis for this for Kirinyaga? That is what they should tell us. What is the basis for you to provide for this amount when it has not been funded before? Where are you expecting to get it? I think that's the question, Governor. For me, I can hide behind the political parties fund or the act. What is the justification for you to repeatedly put these monies on your books when you do not have a clear source of that money?
Governor, and then we come back to OAG for the conclusive statement on lawfulness, effectiveness, professionalism, all that. Then we'll make our recommendation.
I think this will be resolved when the issue of the accrual comes in, because it's usually under the pressure of the county assemblies, or if you, well, the push and pull is between the priorities that you have started, maybe a project, and then the people think that it's maybe taking too much resource and they want money, let's say in ward funds or in bursary. So what happens is that counties, so that they balance the budget, they put all those things that are half budgeted in there, and also the new demands are also included. Then what you do is you up your revenue. So if your revenue, for example, was 400 last year, you say you'll collect 600, even if you know very well that that may not be realistic, just to balance and to make sure that there is the issue. Then now you end up now with a rollover at the end of the financial year because you didn't collect the 600, you maybe just collected 420 or 430 because the realistic growth in a year would be maybe 30, 40 million. And then now you have that balance in between. Then the next year again, you have the tussle. It usually would come if there is too much and you want peace, you just say that's the truth. If you say we won't fund, then the budget won't pass, then you get into an impasse and all that. So the solution to this problem is the issue of the zero-based budgeting. If we stop doing the accrual, the cash, and we do the accrual, so that at the beginning of the financial year you're told, if you have a project that is going on, that is the priority to fund, and you cannot introduce new things, and you also be realistic on your revenue. If your revenue was, let's say, 400 million, you can't say next year it will be 700, because where is it going to come from? You know very well you won't achieve it. You're only writing it so that now all the projects are funded, and that's why we end up with stalled projects, because then this one is only funded 20%, the new one is also funded 10%, and then it's a problem going on, and I have raised it, I think, previously, even like 2 years ago, on the problem that we have with the budgeting. But that is now paraphrasing, which is now the response we've written here. But I think in my county, I actually